There's some real core principles that everybody can take action on. And it all starts with mindset. Believing that you can do it and then not worrying if it doesn't work. You made the decision because you had an open mindset to say, hey, how can I be more productive? How can I have more fun? How can I expose myself to these opportunities? Treading water is the same as drowning to people like you and me. You better start swimming. Welcome to the show. I'm your host, Robb Green. Welcome to today's podcast. We've got Ashwin Menon, a good friend of mine, here with us today. And honestly, I don't even know where to start. We've got comedian, boxer, Amazon employee, leader of the Voices Seller program, starting an entrepreneur, a brand owner now. So welcome to the pod. I can't wait to share all of your experience with everybody and kind of what you've gone through and the evolution of Ashwin. So welcome to the pod.
Thank you so much, Rob. It's been a beautiful week, and this is a great way to end it, too.
This is awesome, man. I'm so happy to have you here. So tell us a little bit about your past.
Sure. So just like many other Indian immigrants, I came here for my master's degree. Actually, end of this week is 6 years in this wonderful country. It's been a hell of a ride. I feel like I'm living the American dream. I did my master's in business and analytics and thought, I'll get a good corporate job and see where life takes me. But I graduated a few months before COVID, so life took me many different ways. And I've understood that life is like a boat in a river that's pushing you along. And if you can paddle faster in the river, you dictate where it's going, else you're in for the ride.
Love that I love that mindset. I know we're going to talk about that a little bit later, but I want to give a little more background for people. You're doing a lot of different things. We struggle with all these opportunities that we have now, right?
Yep.
The true American dream. Like, I feel like we have so many opportunities to do different things, and that's a challenge in itself. I mean, we all start off. I like the adage, you say yes until you can afford to say no. So Say yes to everything, take everything on. So you've got a full-time job. Yep. You lead Voice of the Seller program at Amazon. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so Amazon, as you all know, leads by its leadership principles. One of our founding leadership principles is customer obsession. And so in my role, I get to mechanize customer obsession into our daily workings. And what that means for the average everyday brand owner on Amazon is part of my responsibilities is helping shape the platform to be more seller-friendly, more seller experience optimized, so that we ensure that we remain as a customer-obsessed company. And that's actually a very enriching job because I get to learn all of the pain points that people have with the platform and actually help facilitate the fixes for this across the platform. So enjoy doing that.
Yeah, and I know Amazon in the years past, I was part of a couple of different groups where they tried to get this more formalized, right? Get the feedback from the sellers. And it kind of got a little start and then kind of died off a little bit. And that's how we came to meet about 7-8 months ago. And I'm really convinced that Amazon is truly committed to this. And I think a part of it is the success you and Shamali have had with putting this program together because, it's challenging. Anyone that's ever worked at a big company, it's challenging to get the buy-in from the big company. Are they getting the value out of it from flying sellers in and taking executives' time? But my experience has been really productive for the sellers and then also for the executives at Amazon. So congratulations on doing that. And thank you for continuing to do that.
Thank you so much. Yeah, it's honestly been great. I kind of stumbled into this role myself. The first time I met you, I wasn't even doing this full time. I had another role at Amazon and I was doing this on the side. And shout out to Shamli, my manager. She recognized it really quick that, hey, this kid has a knack for bringing two disparate sections of the business together, the sellers and the tech. And so what really worked for us this time is not just allowing our leadership to view the business through your eyes, but having me as a brand owner in between understand what you mean and how to take what you mean and spit it out in the user story format. And the user story format, for those who are listening, is just the typical way that product development works. You go by, as an X, I would do Y to do Z, whereas a seller is more like, this is what I want done, right? So translating that paradigm from a seller's perspective to how tech companies work has really been fruitful in this endeavor so far.
Yeah, I mean, all my interactions with any of the teams have been doing it for 5-6 years now. I think 5 years ago, before COVID, I met with a local team here that does Lightning Deal development, the platform side of things. And correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't actually think they had ever met with a seller, and they'd already been working on the platform for a couple of years. And they were like, "You're the first seller we've ever talked to." So it's come a long way to get to bring that user feedback of the platform to it. So, I mean, we know they're obsessed with the end customer's perspective, and now I really feel like they're fully invested in the seller's perspective on it. So I really appreciate that. And, you're doing a lot of different stuff. And I think that you talked earlier about the leadership principles at Amazon and how that applies, how you've learned those, and how that's really applied to a lot of aspects about your life. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Absolutely. Everything in Amazon works around the leadership principles that were engraved in stone, so to speak, from the very start. We've added a few here and there. My fiance actually gets mad at me for using some of those words at home. She goes, the next time you use mechanism. But I really think that I've learned an amazing amount in the company, not just in how to work in the company itself, but how to replicate some of these principles in my daily life. For instance, one attribute that I really love is root cause resolutions, right? So deliver root cause resolutions. And what that's done for me it's eliminated the need to go back to a problem. When you eliminate the need to go back to a problem, you eliminate, you gain time, right? And that could be something as simple as putting your toilet paper on subscribe and save versus ordering it every few weeks. Something as simple as that to something in voice of seller where we're root causing the way you interact with certain products and where things break down and have years-long product development roadmaps. So something like that is amazing. I find that one of our key leadership principles is ownership. And ownership is such a wonderful principle that is very hard to teach because it has to come inherently. Whenever I have a new person join the team, they're like, hey, how do I dictate ownership when I'm just a small part of a multi-trillion-dollar entity? And what I always tell them is ownership doesn't come from the top, it comes from you. However, how much ever you believe you own, you own. There are going to be people that knock you off that, but as long as you can maintain that ownership of whatever you're trying to do by yourself, you're good. And the same thing happens in your daily life. Are you owning all 24 hours of your day? Are you just going to work and coming back and enjoying and sleeping? Or are you owning the 5 to 8 after the 8 to 5?
That's a great segue because I know both you and I are passionate about this. I mean, there's no way you're doing all this, obviously, in 40 hours, right? So yeah, I know you laugh because the full-time job alone is more than 40 hours. So you're doing this, plus you're starting a brand, plus you're a comedian sometimes, plus you're boxing almost every day, right? And what I think to me, the takeaway from that is you see what's possible and then you just go and do it, as opposed to putting these artificial constraints on yourself and what is possible. Is that a way you think about it?
Yeah, that is a way to splice it. I think it's a combination of a few different factors coming from my past, how I view the future, and all of that. So I can say for a fact that America truly is the land of opportunities. And there's two factors to that. One, there are many opportunities to take advantage of. And two, there is a mentality in society where no one's going to knock you for trying something. Whereas in the East, where I came from, people told you to be in your place. And that was a mentality that everybody had. And every time you went out of your place, even if it was just a tease, you'd get knocked for trying to do something that is not part of your regime, right? And so growing up, I always felt like I could do more than what I was doing. And I never quite had the society to take me there. Whereas when I came to America, I built my own society. And that took me to places, meeting folks like yourself and all of the wonderful people that we met at the No BS Mastermind that we just had this week was enlightening in a sense that I came out and I was thinking like a man who was more successful than I already was.
That's awesome.
And that's the mentality you need to get to where you want to be.
Yeah.
Right? So the way that I thought about investing in myself was more so than just having a job. I utilize the job to leverage the time that I have and enrich it. So if I'm working 8 to 5, and for anybody that works at Amazon, it's not an 8 to 5 job. It's much more than that. I then leverage all of those learnings on a daily basis from 5 to 8, or mostly more than that, versus waiting to retire or exit from Amazon in 20 years or 5 years or whenever you want to retire and then applying that knowledge. I really believe in learning and applying at the same time. In the topic of starting many of my endeavors, I'm not scared to start anything. And don't get me wrong, when I go up on stage before a stand-up or if I'm getting in front of another fighter, I'm shit scared. But I know that once I'm done doing it, I'm going to feel great. And on some of these days, it's pretty wild. Like I'll spend my mornings from 7 a.m. till 5:36 p.m. in very high stress meetings, corporate discussions, flying sellers in sometimes, having L10 discussions with vice president at Amazon, being extremely business minded. And then at 6:30, I'm driving to the gym to fight a bunch of 20-year-old Mexican boxers. And I have to completely switch over my mind, get inside, fight for a few minutes, go a few rounds, come back. And then I realized that, hey, I need to turn down my head and focus on something less intense. And that's where comedy comes into the picture. And I'm like, hey, I don't know what to watch with my fiance. She likes watching TV at night. I like doing things that are productive. Middle ground, we're going to watch stand-up comedy and learn and do it ourselves.
That's awesome.
Right? So we took something as mundane as watching TV in the end of the night and made something productive out of it. Now, I'm not saying everybody should go do that, but I'm just sharing what I did and what value it's done to my life. It really started out as a date night activity where we'd sit at a bar and write jokes together. And then we're like, hey, maybe we should go do this on stage. And then we did it on stage. And then we met a bunch of people later on who recognized us from different shows. And we're like, hey, when are you doing the next one? And all of our friends and family are like, when are you doing the next one? And then just momentum builds.
That's a key point that I love about the momentum. There's a lot of phrases that kind of describe this idea. I call it a landing spot for luck, right? You made the decision because you had an open mindset to say, hey, how can I be more productive? How can I have more fun? How can I expose myself to these opportunities? And then by doing that, you went and did date night, you met new people, you had fun. Same thing with the job, right? You were not the full-time leader of the program when I met you towards the end of last year. And you were like, oh, this is great. Shamali thought it was great for you. You were a great fit for it. So I was like, oh, well, if I do this, I can take some of these actions, I can learn more, I can learn faster. And that's the big thing for me is you're putting yourself in a position to meet great people and then learn from each of them. And it just shortens that duration for your learning curve. And I see that what you do across boxing, across being a comic, across the job, across the brand owner. And I think there's some real core principles that everybody can take action on. And it all starts with mindset. Believing that you can do it and then not worrying if it doesn't work. I mean, boxing might be one of the best examples of this. Like, you kicked my butt. So we went and did some boxing, which I have not ever boxed on a regular basis, a couple times, but we went and did a sparring session back in December for a couple hours. And I knew going in, I was going to get my butt kicked. You box every day, all the time. You're almost pro, right? Going to go pro. So I knew I had a plan. I was going to go and I was going to learn and have fun and get my butt kicked. And I knew that. And a lot of people don't love that idea. A lot of the guys that we know that have given me a hard time about it, I haven't seen any of them volunteer.
Exactly.
They give me a hard time about getting my butt kicked.
Yeah.
Yet not one of them has said, hey, Ashwin, bring the gloves, bring the gear, let's do this, right?
Yeah.
Because it's challenging because you got to put yourself out there and you know you're going to get beat. But that creates the opportunity for you to learn. And I think you're doing that across your whole life. So, and I don't know if you have an answer for this, but where did that mindset come? Or was that something you were born with? You learned? Is it just manifested itself over the years? Where does that come from?
Loaded question.
Sure.
It was great training with you. I find that I'm eternally curious. Mm-hmm. I'm very curious about everything. And so, I started boxing because one of my roommates during my master's program asked me to do a drill with him. And he was just like, hey, why don't you try to hit me and I'll block? And I was like, are you sure? I'm just going to hit you and you're going to block? Is this going to work out for you? He's like a skinny guy. And he's like, yeah. And I barely went 4 minutes and I was so tired.
Sure.
And I was so embarrassed. I was like, I cannot let another man do this to me. So that's what got me into boxing. But what kept me there was the discipline, the ability to learn how to stay relaxed under stress, and understanding for myself the lines between self-confidence, ego, and curiosity. Because curiosity, ego, and self-confidence can all push you to do certain things, and nobody knows which one's driving what. When you go and say, hey, dude, I want to spar you, the third person watching that can think, oh, Robb's got ego, and he's going to get checked. But you could just be curious.
Yeah. You want to learn.
Yeah. you could just have the confidence that, hey, I can put myself in a situation not knowing what's going to happen, but know that I'm going to be an enriched person coming out of it.
100%.
Right? So all three of these attributes can push you to do something. And I think I have a mix of all three of them. Everybody does have a mix of all three of them.
Sure.
Perception from a third person's perspective is usually reflective of their own self-insecurities. And so if someone is very deeply curious and they see us engaging in this activity, the curiosity is probably going to rise up. And they're like, hey, I'm curious to know how I do. If some person has a high ego, they're like, maybe I don't want to check my ego on this activity. If some person has a high level of self-confidence comes in many ways. Sometimes you can break that confidence. And which is what I tell our friends who, give you a hard time about the show. Like, I looked into your eyes when we were training. It wasn't ego.
Yeah.
It was curiosity and confidence. And you retain those things even after a spar.
A lot of people lose it when they get hit in the face. Is that true?
That's true.
Okay.
It's very true. And ego cracks. Ego is the first thing to crack.
Is that right?
Yeah. Ego is the first thing to crack.
Okay.
Curiosity is the last thing.
Okay.
And you know why? Curiosity is what leads you.
Yeah.
So never be afraid to put yourself out there.
I love that.
Never be afraid to do something that someone's telling you not to do or they think can't happen. Oh, this actually brings us to that conversation that we were having a couple of days ago, where as an entrepreneur, I think you have to find the balance between, oh, that's never going to happen, to, oh my God, that'd be amazing if it happens. Because if it's really easy to make happen, it's probably not worth your time.
Yeah.
And if it's really hard to make happen, it's going to be worth your time if you figure out how to do it.
That's a great point. We did have this conversation the other day about it. And some people are naturally drawn to skepticism.
Yep.
Right. And so their first instinct is no chance, not going to happen. And then other people are like, wow, how amazing would that be if someone could do that, when someone does that, right? And I think that goes back to mindset. So I want to go back, and that was not a loaded question to build me up about how great I am. So I do appreciate the kind words, but it was more about like, where do you think that came from for you? Because I'm curious. I don't know where it necessarily came from for me. So I'm always curious about the psychology of it, and I don't know if there is one answer in specifically, because there's the nature versus nurture argument, and I see even with my kids are raised in the same house, same mom, same dad, different, very different, right, in this regard. So do you have any insight on where you think, because you've got a unique paradigm on life, do you have any idea what framed that?
For one, scarcity breeds strength. The survival of the fittest. Yep. And I believe that the way that I grew up, I wasn't able to enact all of the opportunities I wanted to, that my mother wanted for me. And so that built up. And the moment I got to a place where I got, hey, I can invest in myself now, I did it. And I didn't stop doing it. And so that's definitely one. The second thing probably is every time I was down in the dumps, I just wanted to do it twice as hard versus stop. And I'll give a good example here. In my last 6 years, I was days out of getting kicked out of the United States twice because my visa was about to expire.
Okay.
The first time I was graduating my master's degree and had about 6-7 days left in my visa to find a job. I took a minimum wage job. I was like, we didn't have top of class in a master's degree, but I was doing pretty well. And that was a very humbling experience for me.
Sure.
To have a good job in Dubai, have a good job in India, take a bet of doing a master's degree in the US and then getting a minimum wage job out of it in a small lighting warehouse. Don't get me wrong. I love those guys. Those people, the owners of that company, the folks that I worked with, they have a big part to play in who I am today because they empowered me to go do the right thing. They understood that, hey, this kid's got a knack for figuring things out, even if he had no idea how to do it to begin with. And I just did it. And I really want to say that I think that everybody that starts their career should start their career in a small firm where they can see the impact of their work.
I agree.
Because that feedback cycle will build you. When you're working in a $1 trillion company or a multi-billion-dollar company, you're not going to see the impact of your work in a tangible sense right off the bat. And that's going to build insecurity. So I think coming back to your mentality question, it's a concept of my childhood. And then it's a mix of the positive feedback loops that I've got in over the last few years.
Sure.
And it's also being a little stubborn. I'm really stubborn. Once I decide to do something, I just want to do it.
I love it.
Once it gets into my head, I tell my fiance sometimes, be careful with what you tell me, because once it gets into my head, it's in my head, and you can't get it out. So
I love it. I get a couple of thoughts on that. One, I'm the same way. I will always bet on myself. Always. No matter what it is. I'll bet it all on myself every single time. And I'm not sure where it comes from, but having that belief, like so many people think of expenses, money spent as an expense as opposed to an investment. And I think classifying it as an investment in yourself is so valuable, because the skills that you learn, the leadership principles, how to deal with people, all these like what I would call soft skills are incredibly valuable that separate you from the person next to you. Because, as AI has become more popular and will continue to, those soft skills are going to be probably the last things that the AI can really take over. How do we manipulate this world and work within this world with the abilities that we have, working with the technologies that are evolving? I want to talk a little bit about I'm not going to call it a transition, but the addition of this brand owner idea. So you're doing something similar to what I did. I had a job, corporate job, worked in it, and then I took the other hours afterwards at nights, gave up some sleep. You're not there with kids yet, but I had a couple small kids, and really started building a business. So you've taken that on now as a brand owner. You're starting a brand. Do you want to tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, for sure. And I also want to come back to a word that you mentioned, that is investing, and investing in yourself, because that segues into the brand ownership model.
Perfect.
And I called that out twice in this conversation as well. Investing in yourself is not just buying stocks that you think are good. Investing in yourself is investing the time that you've already been blessed with in things that are good for you. Things that are good for you is a broad term, but something that you like doing, that you wouldn't mind doing at the cost of sleep. Something that you believe can add value to somebody else's life.
Love it.
If you can add value to somebody else's life, the more people that you can add value for, the more successful you're going to be.
I agree.
Every time I'm sad or I feel under the weather, I just go out and try to help somebody else. And that usually makes me feel good too.
Love it.
And it's the same thing with investing in yourself, where I'm always trying to leverage what I know today to figure out how I can help something else. And so in this outlook, I was trying to figure out, hey, what do I love about my culture? Or what do I love about my upbringing that I want to share with the world? And I think something that I really liked about my lifestyle was the focus on health, and the focus on being the best version of yourself, on having the right food that elevates you versus being food the last choice of your budget.
Yeah.
So our products, we're actually launching first with juice sachets that you can carry around anywhere. Drop it in a glass of water, and you've got 100% juice, all the nutrient profile of the original fruit, with the fiber, without any of the natural sugars. And this is where it's the world's first. We're not just giving you flavored water. We're actually eliminating and de-sugaring, that's an FDA-certified term right now,
Okay.
the natural sugars out of fruits. So I'm super excited for this. I can't wait to hear the stories of all of the diabetics who can now enjoy fruit.
I love it. I think that this is super exciting. I've tried it. It's great. Tastes amazing. Is return the fruit back the tagline? Because I do like that. I don't know if we could brainstorm that maybe, but return the fruit back, put fruit first maybe. I don't know. There's a good tagline somewhere in there.
There is. Our tagline is still a work in progress.
Okay.
Such an innovative new concept. Right now, we have a few ideas like Fruit Reborn.
Fruit Reborn. That's nice. I like that.
We're trying to get there. It's hard to synthesize all of the value that we're bringing to a customer in 3 words that capture your attention.
Very difficult.
Very difficult.
Very difficult.
It reminds me of comedy, because it's like, hey, cut the fat.
Yep.
You got to keep it lean. It has to resonate with a wide variety of audiences. When you're building your taglines as a brand, it's not just about the product, but it's about the emotion that it strikes with the person that views it. And so, this is a great journey that I'm on. Don't get me wrong. Outside of the brand itself, like, holy cow, learning how to build a brand, learning what goes into it, what are the levers that you can pull, what are the audiences that you can interact with. It's so real, and I fucking love it.
I love it too. I'm truly thrilled for you. This is gonna be awesome. So obviously you're doing a lot of stuff. There's no way you started this brand by yourself. You said you met a team of people. So we talked a little bit about partnerships over the last week or so about this. How do you think about choosing a partner and choosing this team? Because we all know, anyone that's ever had a partner, I've had good, bad, and ugly partners. And it's like to me, it's like getting married, almost like getting married. Like, it is a big commitment. How do you think about that? How did you know this was the right team to be a part of?
Great question. So the team already had a lot of this built and going before I joined.
Okay.
So I believe it was a very deliberate set of conversations between all of us to know whether we were the right partners or not.
Got it.
And when I say deliberate, you want to check how well you align on values and vision. And you also need to know how well you can disagree with something. That is key. Can I disagree with someone respectfully and walk away with a decision that is better for the both of us versus splitting the difference? Because going 50-50 is not the right choice.
Never. No one's happy.
Yeah, no one's happy, exactly. And so we had a series of conversations around where we thought the company should go, where we believe we can all add value without stepping on each other's toes, because we're all type A people. We all want to just get shit done.
Yep.
And, you got to build around a racy, around people like this to make sure that,
Sure.
Your egos are in check and your vision is driving. So one of the ways that we identified whether we are right partners is disagreeing on some things and seeing if we can walk away in a disagreement, but know that the direction that we chose is still good for you, and have faith in somebody else's decision and say, okay, I'm willing to stand by you. Actually, that's a leadership principle in Amazon too. Disagree and commit.
I was going to bring that up.
Yeah, you have to disagree, but then you have to commit.
Yep.
You can't be half-assing it after you disagree and waiting for your moment to jump back and go, hey, I told you so. That doesn't work. Right? So disagree and commit. That's a leadership principle that I'm bringing from Amazon into my startup. Thank you, Jeff Bezos.
Yep. But is bias for action one of the core principles also?
Yes, it is.
We have borrowed that also. It's on the wall in the office here as one of our core principles. And I love that. You said get shit done. I love that one too.
Yeah.
Just for our viewers, you mentioned something really quick and that many people may not be familiar with, which is RACI.
Yeah.
So that is a framework, right? That is responsible, accountable, consulted, informed. So we use that sometimes here too, and I think that's a great framework on allocating responsibilities because it's or of the actual project or the task. And so many people think, I thought you had it.
Yeah.
Wait, I thought I had it. Who had it, right? And it gives clarity around that.
Yeah.
So people should look into that if they're not familiar with
100%.
That framework.
Yeah, great way to organize work in a matrix structure.
Love it. So is Core Nectar live?
Core Nectar is live in T- probably 10 days.
All right, so by the time this comes out, Core Nectar is live.
Core Nectar is live. Please try it out. If you're a mom that's looking for something for their kids, you don't want the sugar, Core Nectar lemonade. If you're an athlete that wants to hydrate yourself with 100% real juice with none of the sugar, Core Nectar Electro Lemonade. It's a line of electrolytes. And we also have a series of amazing products in the roadmap. We're going to come up with gummy bears, because who doesn't love gummy bears?
I love gummy bears.
But I hate the sugar.
I agree.
So our gummy bears are going to be 1 to 2 servings of fruit and none of the original sugar with fiber and the nutrient profile. So
it sounds like an amazing alternative. I feel like this is a loaded question. Where should people check out Core Nectar?
You'll find Core Nectar on Amazon pretty soon.
Okay.
You'll find it on TikTok Shop.
Awesome.
And with the end of the year, you're going to find it on retail shelves.
I love it. I'm super excited about it. The branding's great. The product is great. The messaging is perfect for the epidemic that we have in the United States right now. So I'm excited for you and for that process. You're going to learn so much through this. I know this is the first brand you're building, which is why you were in town this week also.
Yeah.
You came to participate in the Mastermind that we've had for the last 7 years, and that you gave a great perspective, obviously, from your positions and all the fun stuff you've done, and I think hopefully you got some value out of everybody that attended is a brand owner and has owned and sold brands over the last few years. So that was you talked about this earlier. I want to circle back to that actually. That was an investment of your time and energy into you learning and being curious and getting better. And that isn't necessarily a money investment, right? We invest our money time.
I
or
made money out of it.
Yeah, somehow you made money out of the deal, which never has happened at the Mastermind ever. We do a little game at the end of the night where at the last dinner where I play a host and everybody puts in their bid, can't go over the price of the dinner, and puts in some money. And Ashwin won the guess on the cost of the dinner, so he actually made money on this trip. So that does not happen. That never happens. People make money on it, but I think investing is not just money.
Yeah.
Right? Everyone talks about money.
Yeah.
It's the time and it's the energy.
Yep.
Where do I want to put my time and energy into something? And like for me, the Mastermind has been the best investment of my time and energy that I've done in business.
Yep.
No question. And I probably say this almost every other podcast, but if you're not part of a group of like-minded individuals, go find one. If you can't find one, go start one. Best thing I've ever done. No doubt about it. So hopefully you got value out of that. I think you knew probably half the people already or a third of the people.
Yeah.
But made some new connections too, which is great.
I loved it. I walked out of it so enriched. And, as a full-time employee, this is not a normal occurrence where you go and stay in a house with business owners for 3 days at a stretch. You literally don't leave the house and you're talking business. You're talking shop all day long.
Yep.
And it enriched me to no end. Like, I remember telling my fiance, I was like, babe, I'm going to take some days off from work and then go work in Phoenix for a few days. More people must do this. And
I
for
agree.
every young techie or every young employee out there, hey, go find what you're passionate about and go find that group and go spend some time with them. Because I love hanging out with my friends. Like, I was actually in New York for over the weekend for a friend's wedding thingy. And we spent 2 days with some of my best friends in the world. And I had such a great time. I come here to Phoenix and I'm thinking, oh man, I could have stayed another day with my friends. Because I'm out of office anyway from my day job. And I showed up here and I'm thinking, oh, these are like 5, 6 people I haven't met, 6, 7 people that I've, interacted in business environments before. How's this going to go? Am I going to enjoy this? And immediately the vibe of the people, the way they look at every small thing, whether it's dinner or their brand, there's a thread that kind of goes through all of this. And I felt like I found a tribe of people that knew how I was thinking. There was one point where I was talking with Alan, who founder of Cos, and I was like, hey, sorry, I'm a little ADD, so I'm going here and there, here and there. He goes like, dude, me too. I'm matching your energy. And it's amazing. So from something as simple as a ADD conversation over lunch to breaking down your business and identifying who are the right partners to meet with for TikTok or Amazon, or business-to-business leads, or investments outside of your brand, or private equity, or talking about real estate lending, all of these conversations are so enriching. And what is the best part of this is, in the entrepreneurship world, if you find your right people, it's not a rat race anymore. Everybody who gets stuck in college and goes through the grind is stuck in a rat race. You got to get out of that rat race mentality. That rat race, the incumbency bias of the rat race mentality is that you're stuck thinking the world has finite resources. Get out of that.
Yes.
The world has infinite resources.
Yes.
And you have infinite potential.
Yes.
If you can out-help the person next to you, you can infinitely grow.
See, I think this is the core principle of your mindset, by the way.
Yeah. Yeah, and this is something that you told me on day one when I met you, which is probably why we're good friends, is that you're someone that's willing to out-help the person helping them.
So this has been awesome. We could sit here, I joked earlier, about 4 hours and talk about all this stuff. I think what I like to leave people with is action steps. So I'm going to give you a couple action steps that I've taken away from this, and then I'd love for you to talk about it a little bit if you'd like. Number one is bet on yourself. This is something I don't even think about anymore until we talk about it. I believe it so much at my core. The second thing is be a well-rounded product. I think you'd mentioned this earlier to me, and I love that. It's like, I believe you've got to win. You want to win in health, wealth, and relationships. And if you are so focused on just business or wealth creation and don't have the physical health, the energy to continue and fight through and make it happen, it's gonna be more difficult for you. And then the third thing is getting onto a regular plan and training the muscle of taking action. Right? Anything you want to add to those?
Yeah, I'll start with the mentality of betting on yourself, because when you're an entrepreneur, you have to validate your bets through external agencies. and you lose that self-agency of betting on yourself without external validation, which is what an entrepreneur has, is the ability to bet on yourself without external validation and the ability to continue betting on yourself for a validation that may come 3 years down the line or 7 years down the line. So can you keep that up? Because we go into work and we're in this environment of putting ourselves on external validation for 8 hours, as an employee, it gets hard to flex the muscles of betting on yourself. So start small. You know, you can take as an action item, go back and get done with your day of work, sit down for 30 minutes and write down either what you're good at or what you like doing. You don't need to monetize it. What you're good at or what you like doing. And when I say write for 30 minutes, you can think for 25 minutes and write for 5 minutes, but make sure at the end of that 30-minute timer, you've got a few words on that piece of paper. For the next 30 minutes, be it on the same day or another day, do it.
Yeah.
Once you do it, and you don't have to make a huge product out of it, literally just do what you said you would for an hour, maybe 2 hours, half an hour, any amount of time. Once you get through that step, maybe the following week, once it's marinated in your head for a little bit, present it to 3 friends, 4 friends. Top it at 5. Don't do more than 5, because too much feedback will point you in many different directions. Do it at 5, but know in the back of your head, I don't care what this person says. I'm going to do it anyway.
Love it.
That is a small action item that anybody can take to elevate their life from investing in making somebody else rich to investing in making themselves rich. And when I say rich, I don't just mean wealth, like you said. Like, you believe in health, wealth, and relationships, right?
Yep.
In Amazon, Jeff Bezos is pretty famous for saying this in the late 90s. I think it was in a shareholder letter. You can work hard, or you can work long, or you can work fast. At Amazon, you don't get to pick 2 out of 3. Same thing with your life.
Yeah.
You can make money. You can have amazing relationships. You can take care of yourself. But why are you picking 2 out of 3? Most aren't even picking 1 out of 3. Hit all 3. And that's a flywheel.
Completely agree.
Right? The more relationships you have, the better health you're in. The better health you're in, the better wealth you're bringing in. The better wealth you're bringing in, the more relationships you have. And you just keep pushing yourself. So I think that's what I want to leave people with. Bet on yourself. Don't wait for external validation. Know it inherently that you're the best at being yourself. You're also the best at doing today what you did yesterday. So you got to stop that cycle.
I love it, man. This has been wonderful. I really appreciate you spending the time, sit down, talk to me. I want to circle back. Core Nectar, corenectar.com.
Corenectar.com.
Okay.
You can go on right now. Well, by the time this podcast comes on, it's going to be live.
Yep.
So I'm excited. I'm excited to hear your stories. Tag us on your posts. I want to know what it feels like. If you're wearing a blood sugar monitor, use it. We did these tests, and every time I see someone with a blood sugar monitor try it out, and I see that look of amazement and happiness in their face, I'm like, it's worth it.
That's awesome. Thanks so much, buddy. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much, Rob. Thank you so much for having me.
You bet. Take care.
Take care.
If you enjoyed today's episode, please subscribe, leave a review, and share with friends. And if you're an entrepreneur interested in coming on the show, visit therobgreenshow.com to get in touch. Stay curious and never stop learning, improving, or growing.